Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today in gaming, EA's upcoming investor calls might indicate a reveal date for Battlefield 6. PUBG is testing out a player reputation system, Cyberpunk devs deny allegations of a delayed update, and much more. EA scheduled two investor calls for their Q3 and Q4 2021 earnings reports for February and May. While these calls typically only get into details on released games and products, they often do include talking points about future games and stuff that's in development. Right now, we're expecting Battlefield 6 to be revealed and released this year. That's based on EA's timeline for the game's launch, though the pandemic may have caused a delay. The first call is scheduled for February 2nd. It should be our first new bit of information about the state of Battlefield 6 development since EA Play last June. Between then and now, EA have briefly touched on the state of the game, saying they gave DICE an extra year to work on it and that playtesting and community feedback has been positive. The May call is scheduled for the 11th, and this is where things could get interesting. EA aren't going to let the cat out of the bag before the game gets a proper reveal, but Battlefield 1 was revealed on May 6th, 2016. Battlefield 5 was also revealed on May of 2018, so it seems like we can either expect a reveal trailer for Battlefield 6 either just before May 11th or shortly after. As for what we expect to be revealed, speculation suggests that Battlefield 6 will be a modern military shooter. Rumors have been floating around that the game will support 128 player servers, and those rumors have been backed up by EA saying the game's scale is unprecedented. Of course, we don't have much else to go on, so you can put as much stock in these rumors as you want. The one thing that definitely does need to happen with the next Battlefield game is DICE needs to deliver. They need to come out swinging. The FPS market has way more competition than ever before. And while I'm sure DICE has integrated some cool things into the next Battlefield game, they still have a lot to prove to earn back their community's trust. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds next update is currently available on the game's test server. The highlight feature is a new reputation system that will keep track of your in-game behavior. It will assign you a score between 0 and 5 that players can see. Specific actions like routinely leaving matches can automatically reduce your score. But other players can also report toxic behavior, which will also lower your score. While PUBG certainly isn't the first to implement such a system, it stands out as one of the more prominent examples. Many games do track your reputation in some sort of fashion, but most don't actually advertise it to other players. As for how reports will affect your score won't go down just because somebody reported you for cheating. Getting banned, however, will have a significant impact on your score, assuming the ban isn't permanent. If no major issues crop up while the patch is in testing, it should be deployed to public servers in a week or so. It includes the usual minor bug fixes, performance improvements, and new cosmetics. CD Projekt Red released a statement publicly denying allegations made by an anonymous person claiming to be a developer at the studio. Allegations include cut content, big delays to upcoming patches, high-profile employees leaving the company, and more. The original post claims that two major updates were planned to roll out this month and next month that won't launch until March. That would be another big blow to the game's public image, considering these patches will supposedly fix the game on last-gen consoles. As for cut content, the post says a huge underground part of the city with 50,000 lines of dialogue and apartments with locked doors scattered across the map were all cut. The post claims this content will be added in a June update. CD Projekt Red flatly denied all the allegations on Twitter, linking the post and calling it simply not true. That said, modders recently discovered some cut dialogue hidden in the game's files. Some of the content has been restored, allowing players to choose a male character to romance Judy. Currently, only female players in the game can romance this NPC. The module includes voice lines, cutscenes, and more. Of course, cut content can be found in basically every game ever made, so it's not like it's uncommon to find stuff floating around that isn't playable in the official release. A new trailer for Hitman 3 showcases the game's PSVR support. The game will offer a sandbox VR mode and lets players stealth around with a pretty surprising degree of freedom and fidelity. As for PC VR support, it's unclear if this mode will be exclusive to PlayStation. Given how low-tech PSVR is compared to modern VR systems, PC support seems like a no-brainer. Hitman 3 is billed as a cutting-edge next-gen title. For its VR mode to be locked to last-gen hardware seems like a pretty big misstep. A data miner has allegedly found evidence that Nintendo are still working on a Switch Pro. The latest firmware update for the existing Switch apparently contains code mentioning a new console codenamed Allah. It will reportedly use the same Tegra X1 processor as the Switch Lite, but clocked higher for better performance. There's also stuff in the firmware that points to a new Realtek chip being included in the console that supports 4K Ultra HD multimedia content. It sounds less like Nintendo are launching a Pro variant of the Switch and more like they're adding 4K TV support. The current Switch can only output a maximum resolution of 1080p, and while 4K TVs can usually upscale that just fine, it limits media like Netflix and YouTube to 1080p. Given how popular 4K is becoming, it seems reasonable that Nintendo would pack 4K support to an otherwise minorly improved product revision. Star Wars Battlefront 2 will be the next free game on the Epic Store. Despite getting off to an astoundingly rough start, Battlefront 2 went through a renaissance and is now highly praised by players. DICE announced last year that they were ending support for the game to focus on Battlefield 6. The announcement came as a bit of a shock considering Battlefront 2's content was hitting a nice stride at that time. But it's a pretty complete experience as is, and more content would have just been icing on the cake. You can get your free copy on the Epic Store next week. 2020 was a big year for remakes, and one of them is doing quite well. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is an HD remaster of the beloved 2003 game. To date, the remaster has sold over 1 million units and is expected to hit 2 million before sales die off completely. That estimate could go much higher, though the game is getting a mobile release soon. Reviews of the remaster were very positive from both critics and players. Before we get to the final story today, if there's any gaming news you'd like to see covered in future episodes, let us know in the comments. We do our best to cover a wide range of gaming news as possible, but something always slips through the cracks. If there's something we missed that you'd like to hear more about, leave it in a comment. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications while you're at it. In our final story today, UK regulators are looking into Nvidia's recent $40 billion acquisition of ARM, the company that's designing some of the world's most widely used processors. The regulators want to ensure that the deal doesn't mean ARM will raise prices or reduce their licensing services quality. Thousands of companies rely on ARM's incredibly lax licensing to exist. Without such relaxed terms, things like Raspberry Pi wouldn't be possible. Nvidia's acquisition worries the regulators, as Nvidia isn't exactly known for giving away their cutting-edge tech. And that wraps it up for today in gaming. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.